create language service, and use API keys. In this lab, we will learn how to use the Text Analytics API on Azure and download and use your API keys. The purpose of today's lab is to understand how we start a new language service on Azure and interact with our API keys. Task overview. Our first task is going to be create an Azure AI language resource. Then we will investigate the resource and see some useful information. After that, we will navigate to our API keys, as well as our endpoint, and then we will copy those API keys and discuss the usage for our next lesson. And the tool we will be using for this is the Azure portal. So the basics of the text analytics service allow us to extract insights from text, such as sentiment analysis. So detecting how positive, neutral, or negative the sentiment on a text input is. Confidence scores determine confidence levels for each sentiment, language type, what language is being used in the text, and many more. In this lesson, we will focus on setting up the service and the following. We will be using it for some real-world text analytics examples. So our first task is going to be to sign into the Azure portal. The search box, type language, Azure AI language is going to be the service that we select. We'll then create it and fill in the following details. Let's take a look at that now. So again, we are going to navigate to portal.azure.com. Make sure you're signed in. We are going to search for the language service. We will then create a new language service. We have some custom features that we can potentially implement, but we don't need those here. So we'll just go ahead and click the bottom left to continue to create our resource. And again, we will type in the information we saw before, and then we will hit at the end, review, and create. After we fill in our information, we will see this review screen. We can then click to create our deployment. Task 2, investigate resource. Now we will view the resource that we just created. Note that we can delete, redeploy, download, and refresh the language service instance at any time. After we click Go to Resource, we will be given more information about our resource. We can see here a little bit of information about our service, and when we click Go to Resource, we will see a bit more information about our service, including the status, what subscription we put it under, our API kind, and all our other good information. And we can even see our endpoint there, which will be useful here in a minute. Task 3, good API keys. API keys are how we can use our language and other services without having to interact with our user interface directly. Navigate to the pane on the left-hand side and find the section labeled Resource Management for this particular service, and then we will see a drop-down menu and select Keys and Endpoint. We will then be taken to the API key and endpoint list for our newly created service. From here, we are going to navigate to Resource Management to get our keys and our endpoint. Here we can see key 1 and key 2. Task 4, copy API keys and discuss usage. We are now at the API key and endpoint page for our created resource. You can view the two API keys by clicking Show Keys above the hidden text next to key 1 and key 2. You can copy these, but be sure to put them in a safe place like a protected drive or even better, a encrypted volume or similar, or otherwise only use them when you are actually interacting with the service in a Python IDE or similar. These API keys and endpoint can be used to interact with our newly created service with tasks such as sentiment analysis, which we will take a look at in the following lesson. Here we can see that we have both our keys, and we can copy those with the button on the right-hand side, as well as regenerate new keys. At the bottom, we can see our endpoint, which we will use in our next lesson to interact with the service directly. Some potential use case examples of when we would use these API keys and our endpoint are, for example, let's say we were creating some sort of bot that traded based on the analysis of the sentiment of the market. What we could do in this case is programmatically hook up some Python code to an RSS feed, let's say, for example, on the cryptocurrency market. We would then download that text, again, via Python, strip out all the unnecessary information like link embeds and things like that, so we just have pure text. We could then run this through the sentiment analysis service and figure out what the general market sentiment is for any market. And again, this can be included as an additional input to, let's say, a deep neural network in order to predict whether or not it is a good time to buy or whether you should stay out of a market. And again, this can't just be applied to the cryptocurrency market specifically. This is something that should be generally applicable to almost any market in which there is publicly available information in text form about the sentiment of the market that we are trying to understand.